Okay, friends, this is day 13 of our Rooted Reading Plan, and finally, we're at the birth of Jesus. Now, we're not at the birth of Jesus as told in Matthew or in Luke. These are the stories that we often hear on Christmas Eve about the angels and the shepherds, Mary and Joseph, all of that stuff. But we're in the Christmas story in John 1, which doesn't talk about Mary, Joseph, doesn't talk about shepherds, wise men, any of those things, but it talks about what the birth of Jesus means, like a larger level. So we're not going to read through the whole thing. I'm going to encourage you to read through the whole thing. Read it slowly, reflect on it. Alex's thoughts are great here. The discussion questions are really good. And I want to point out a few things also. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. What do you already see here? I mean, come on, you Old Testament scholars. What do you see here? I mean, John here is revisiting the creation story. I mean, these first words of his gospel point us back to the first words of Genesis. This would have been more obvious if the people who put the Bible together had ordered the Gospels a little bit differently. You know, they could have put John first. And if they had put John first, then the first words of the New Testament would have been not exactly, but so similar to the first words of Genesis. So it's not as obvious to us because we get through Matthew, Mark, and Luke first. But just imagine John starting his gospel story, his story of Jesus like this. He is clearly showing us there is a connection between what is happening in Jesus and his birth and what happened way back in the beginning with the birth of creation. This is not a new creation story. It is him revisiting the creation story. And then when you get to the end of John and the resurrection, you actually get like a new creation story, but that's for another time. He's showing us this Messiah that we believe in, this Jesus, that he was with God from the very beginning. In fact, not only was he with God, but he was God. He is God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light to people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Then you get a little parenthetical bit about John the Baptist. Then you get down to verse 9. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelled among us. And we have seen his glory. Glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. The Word became flesh and dwelt there. The word dwelt is the same Greek word that is used to talk about the tabernacle. You may remember from Exodus that the tabernacle is the tent that the Israelites built, instructed by God, to house the Ark of the Covenant, which was the throne of God. So the tabernacle was the place on earth where God's presence dwelled in a unique way. What happens here? The Word, so God himself, becomes flesh and tabernacles among us. So now what is Jesus? But Jesus is the place in the physical world where God dwells in a unique way. That what John is showing us in his version of the Christmas story is that the birth of Jesus is the story of God himself stepping into creation. That when people looked into the eyes of Jesus, they were looking into the eyes of God himself. And when God himself breaks into the world, God cannot be overcome like light. That cannot be overcome by darkness. There's no kind of darkness that can overtake light. And though people would reject Jesus, though he would come into the world and people would not accept him, what he was here to do in his mission could not be overcome. And we, of course, are invited into that. So this Christmas, as you're thinking about what it is that you want for Christmas, I think I'm going to talk about this on Christmas Eve. As you're thinking about what you want for Christmas, I would add something to the top of your list. It may sound hokey, it may sound cheesy, but I think there's a lot of truth to this. What the Christmas story points us towards is that while there's nothing wrong with the lights and the presents and the Santa Claus and all of that stuff, there is one thing at Christmas that we should churn up inside of us a desire for. We should add to the top of our Christmas list. That we should desire above all other things. And that is that in Christmas of 2021, may it be that what we desire more than anything else is we desire the light. We go back to the very beginning, which is what John points us towards. The very beginning. What were the first words that God spoke into this world? Let there be light. So that's my prayer for you, is that will be true for you this Christmas of 2021. Let there be light in your life. That's my prayer for you, that light would break into those dark spaces, that hope would come into those places of despair, joy into those places of sorrow, that light would come in, and there is no darkness that can overcome that light. And what I have found to be true, and what this story points towards, and what many of you have found to be true also, is that the light of the world really is the baby born in the manger. The light of the world really is Jesus, God himself coming into the world to save the world. So this year, I hope you get some good gifts. But more important than anything else, let there be light in your life. God bless you, friends. Keep up with your reading. Tomorrow we get to the Christmas story as we more often hear it, and we're actually going to be in that the next couple of days. God bless you, and I'll see you soon.